Hello and welcome to Abuja. Let me begin with an apology this Monday morning. We are coming a bit, almost 10 minutes behind schedule. Just want to thank our colleagues in the Enugu Center for holding the ground down for us. Just our guests were holed up in the Abuja traffic. I do not know when the Lagos traffic began to transport itself over to Abuja. We shall overcome. Now, from the Abuja studio this morning, we are going to face something rather local today. The Independent National Electoral Commission, penultimate Friday, released the schedule for the FCT area council elections. And shortly after, some groups began to point certain things they think do not tally. Began to raise, let me call it, objections to certain aspects of the process. Now, FCT council elections is almost 1 year from now, and the Independent National Electoral Commission thought that respecting the schedule of activities, it ought to start now, telling the public, the political parties, when what will come will come. Election to hold on Saturday, February the 21st, 2026. That's when the FCT council elections will hold. And then the publication of the election notice to follow, and progressively the INEC put out the timetable. But this morning from the Abuja studio, I have with me Asambe Mohammed Omonire. Let me pronounce it properly. Omorinre. I hope I'm correct, Mohammed.
Correct,
yes. He is the leader of the group that is seeing certain things not tallying. And that group is the Abuja Political Advancement Group. They think that something is wrong with what the INEC published. We'll get to know what the challenges are. Also in the studio this morning is Honorable Robert Ash Ubede. He is the AMAC APC youth leader. I think Robert tailed Mohammed to this morning's conversation. Robert, you are welcome to our studio.
Thank you, sir.
Now, Mohammed, I'm going to begin with you because if you look at the timetable, as if my colleague could just show out that timetable, if you look at the timetable as published by INEC, elections to hold on Saturday, February 21, 2026. Publication of election notice is February 26, 2025. Party primaries June 9 to June 30, 2025. Candidate nomination portal will open on 9 o'clock on July 21st, 2025, and it will close on August 11, 2025. Let's see the next part of this schedule of activities. Now, INEC says final list of candidates will be published on September 22, 2025, and commencement of public campaigns by political parties will be on September the 24th, 2025, and concluding on February 19, 2026. Mohammed, looking at this, INEC seems to be working within the provisions of the rule. Am I right?
Yes.
Is there anything you find not tallying there?
Thank you so very much. Good morning, Nigerians. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. It's a very simple analogy. With all you have just spelled out, INEC is working in accordance with the law as amended to give us this latest guideline. But what we are really concerned about is the previous election that was held in FCT area councils for the chairman as well as the councillor all over the 62 wards in FCT. What our concerns are is that then the electoral act that was put into use to conduct that very election was 2010 electoral act. We have no objection on negating the fact that this present guideline that was released is in accordance with the 2022 Electoral Act as amended. What our demand is, the last election was conducted on the platform of 2010 Electoral Act. That is, majority of all those that willingly gave their vote to those that are presently in charge in the 6th Area Council, gave them a mandate of 3 years when we went to the poll at that time. The election was conducted, it was concluded, a winner was declared. Before the new Electoral Act was signed into law by the former President Muhammadu Buhari. So therefore, we are now demanding, can we give a mandate of 3 years to an elected officers, and an umpire on his own declared them to stay in office for an additional 1 year. I believe that is not in his power to do. And people have approached various instituted authorities, and we're expecting due diligence to be done in due course. That's just, we are not negating the guideline that has been released. We are not at all. But we are all demanding what applies way back in 2022 election. It was a 3-year mandate.
No, the 2010 election was a 3-year mandate.
2022. The election was conducted in 2022.
Yes, but what was used was the 2010 Electoral Act.
The law used then was 2010 Electoral Act.
In other words, they should serve full 3 years.
3 years. The full 3 years mandate given to them is what is expected to be served, which is going to elapse this year. And if surely you cannot operate in vacuum, the minister knows what to do. They should give somebody of the highest repute in the area council to take charge while we work on the electoral guideline they've just released. That's just our demand. It's democracy we are talking about. If we are not doing it accordingly, then why are we into it?
No, let me hear from Robert. This election was conducted using the 2010 Electoral Act as amended. Now, before the conclusion of that tenure, before that tenure elapsed, a new law came into effect. And that law demands that a new process should begin. You're asking INEC to delay the implementation of this new law until the old law has exhausted its course. Am I correct?
Very correct. Very, very correct. And to buttress these facts, just like my brother here I've just mentioned, the election that brought the present occupants of
FCT Council,
FCT Council chairman and councillors was conducted with the 2010 Electoral Act. Prior to that election, all the parties and the good people of FCT knew they were voting for those candidates
for a 3-year tenure.
And election is said to be a process. There are different forums where INEC has come out to pronounce that election starts from the day guidelines are released. So election is a process. So if election is a process, and it was done with a law, we're now asking INEC, is our law retroactive? The answer is no. You don't use a law for a process and use another law to end the process. It's not acceptable. That is why I said, and that is why we are demanding that by 14th June 2025, their tenure elapses. they should vacate that seat. They should vacate the seats they are occupying, because the law and electoral act that brought them into that election was the 2010 electoral act. So we stand against using 2022 electoral act as amended
to try to conduct election.
To declare extra month or extra year for an election that was held with 2010 electoral act.
Now, Mohammed, I have a worry here. What you're asking for is a lacuna. Because in the 2010 electoral act that was used, the mandate of the current occupants will end, for instance, in August this year, or in June.
In June 14th.
In June 2025. And the new rule says elections will hold in February of 2026. What will happen between June and when that election is held? In other words, there will be no occupants of that position.
Yes, I think there are laws governing all those aspects. We cannot operate in abstract. There cannot be a vacuum. Surely somebody must be in charge. Quite all right, Abuja in the history had never had anything in quote caretaker committee. We are not soliciting for caretaker committee. We are only asking for due process to be observed, due diligence. If their time elapses at June,
they should go.
They definitely must vacate that office. And in the absence of, when there is nobody, no elected officers in that position for now, we have people that are career officers, administrative officers in that same area councils. So the constitution permits the honorable minister to appoint somebody to serve as an administrative secretary, working in alliance with the minister. Pending that period of time, the new election will be conducted, and a new set of executive chairmen as well as elected councillors will be in power. We are not asking this antagonistically. It is the constitution we are trying to. We want democracy to be deepened. This is, in quotes, they said renew hope. We want everything we are doing now to be done in a renewed way. We are not asking for much, and we are not here to attack any individual. None of the occupants that we are here to, attack. We are only asking that due diligence. And do you know what, sir? What we are asking for, it's something the umpire, the electoral umpire who had approached the media to pass an information sometime last year that the incumbent chairman and councillors are to spend 4 years. It is not in his power. He's only speaking in accordance to the electoral act as amended.
I'm sure that's not known to you officially.
No, I know.
Go ahead.
I know.
Go ahead.
But it is expected of the chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakub, to have approached the law courts. Because look at this thing, it sounds somehow meager, but it can bring about some sort of constitutional crisis. Approach the law courts. Let the law court give us an interpretation of this. It might be applicable to chairmanship now. I'm quite sure if it does apply to a governorship position, it will have been so bigger than our imagination. But here it is. It should have approached the law court for interpretation. And I believe if he did that, none of us will be here talking about this. Because the instituted authority, the law court of competent jurisdiction, will have given us a final say regarding this. But I believe some of the youths have approached the law court for interpretation. Are they entitled to stay in office after being elected for 3-year mandate
based on the
2010 electoral act? Do they have the right to stay in power for more than that 3 years? So we are waiting for the law courts to give us.
Mohammed, now that you brought in the courts, let me ask Robert. Have you followed the current pronouncement of the Supreme Court that the Constitution does not permit, anticipate, allow for committees, sole administrators, except elected officials to run the local governments. As a matter of truth, just last week, when we were discussing the matter of the financial autonomy of local governments, a lawyer was here to tell us that by the pronouncement of the Supreme Court, that is effective amendment of the Constitution, if, as Mohammed has suggested, the FCT minister decides to run the FCT councils using the executive secretaries and in liaison with his office, will he not be running foul of the clear pronouncement of the Supreme Court? And will the area councils not be running the risk of not getting federal allocations?
No, I think.
I'm not panning you, you're not a lawyer, exactly. But two of us are in conversation.
Exactly. in the local powers, I think we all believe this process in terms where there is a vacuum. It's not like we're not talking against the Constitution or the new electoral act. If there is a vacuum, the most senior official of the local government acts in that capacity until election is held. So if INEC ought to have released a timetable earlier than this, but because our public office holders has now accrued themselves with some powers that are none given to them. That's why I said there will be a constitutional crisis, just like my friend said. INEC don't have that power to extend their tenure. By the virtue of the new electoral act, INEC has the right to release their guideline for election.
But within the law.
Within the law. If there's a vacuum, from 14th June, the most senior officer of that local government administrates over the local government, over the area council, over the secretariat, until when the election has been held and it will not declare. So it's not going contrary to the law. Okay,
Mohammed, I will take a break very quickly, but before I take that break, you heard the question Robert and I have just conversed over, because there seems to be a legal trap for the FCT minister. There seems to be a legal trap for the INEC, and that legal trap is this. The Supreme Court, which is the highest court in the land, said you cannot run the FCT by any other means than elected officials. Any other thing, any other contraption you bring into it is an illegality, unconstitutional. But by this our conversation, it appears you and Robert want to lead the FCT minister into temptation.
Not at all, not at all, sir. If you look at it very well, what are we talking about? We're talking about 2010 Electoral Act. We're not just talking about a piece of paper I wrote somewhere. I did not write it. It's a binding document, 2010 Electoral Act. And that was the document with which we all went to the poll way back then. Now, another law came on board February 28, 2022, after the previous law has been applied in the process. And here, can you say we are wrong? We are saying, is the 2010 Electoral Act not a law? We are not negating 2022 Electoral Act as amended. We are not negating it. But let me just give us an instance here, sir. You have a football match ongoing. They start like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 45 minutes. You know, there are rules guiding that process, that match, according to FIFA, the umpire of football, whatever. There is a rule governing them. And in the middle of that match, with less than that 90 minutes, another rule came in. Does that rule going to be applicable to that ongoing match? The answer is no. The answer is no. So in as much as electoral I mean, election is a process. We have started it with 2010 Electoral Act. I see no reason why it should be truncated. Why don't we wait till the 2026 timetable that has just been released, the guideline? Those that are coming on board then will now enjoy that very pronouncement of 4-year term. It is simple. I am a layman, I'm not a lawyer, just as you said, sir. But from my own understanding, I've given you a very simple analysis, an instance using a football match. Is it possible while the match is ongoing for the ref to change the rule? It is a capital no, sir.
Okay, if the Independent National Electoral Commission is to respect the old law, elections should have been conducted earlier than they are being proposed for February next year. So, by implication, Robert and Mohammed are saying that the current occupants of those positions are getting extra 1 year, which was not the contract between them and those who elected them into power. Now a question arises. When should the old law terminate? When should the new law take effect? If Mohammed and Robert's argument are sustained, what is the impact of sustaining it on the pronouncement of the Supreme Court? Is the FCT minister between the devil and the deep blue sea? Is the INEC court in between not clearly interpreted legal arguments? We'll come back to this conversation after a short break. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. We are still conversing on the FCT elections. It's caught between, or they are caught between two laws: the 2010 Electoral Act as amended and the 2022 Electoral Act. Now the challenge is, by the provisions of the 2010 Electoral Act, FCT council chairmen and their councillors are supposed to serve 3-year term, but by the 22 Electoral Act they should serve 4-year term. 3-year term by the first law should terminate June of 2025. INEC has brought out a timetable indicating that the election into the FCT Council will hold in February of 2026, and my two guests in the studio, Mohammed, I'm always having problem with this Omori Ray. Are you from Kogi State?
An indigenous Lagosian.
Serious matter. From Lagos Island.
And Awori by tribe.
Serious matter. Yeah. Yeah, welcome. Omori Ray and Robert Ach Ubede.
Thank you, sir.
They are raising very strong arguments, and I just go. None of us here is a lawyer. So all our conversation is just commonsensical, not legalistic. Mohammed, if the first law terminates on June 2025, you are saying therefore that the new law should take effect from that point going forward. Is that your point?
Yes, sir.
Which law should serve between that point and when election is conducted? Or is it that of lawlessness?
I believe there is provision for everything in Nigerian Constitution.
Under the law?
Under the law. on or before now, we have been having caretakers committee.
No, no, Mohammed, please.
I want to explain better to
you. Just, you know what I'm saying? No. It's because the Supreme Court says it is a no-go area.
And in FCT, we have never had such. Meaning, we have been following due process
now,
in all that we've been doing in FCT.
Now you're asking them.
No, sir. Let me land in that aspect. 2010 Electoral Act, as applied in the election that was conducted in 2022, that brought the people in power at the moment in there, terminates by June, as you said, sir. And there's another law, 2022 Electoral Act as amended, that is expected to apply at the next election, which is going to be 2026 FCT Area Council election. Now, in between, you call it vacuum. To me, it is not vacuum.
Great.
We have career officers manning that same area councils, and there's no crime. I don't think in the law. Even there was a pronouncement that any area council aside FCT then, when this pronouncement came from the Supreme Court, that any area council without an officially elected chairman and councillors would not receive federal allocation. But when they tinkered with it and observed, no, it will affect the running of day-to-day activities of that area council. Even from the federal government also, they came up with that idea that the most senior, meaning the administrative officers in that area council, would take charge of the management of affairs pending the time the election will be conducted. And as soon as that is conducted, within 90 days or something, they said, and they will return it back to the elected officials. But sir, you see, this thing is just, just as you said, we are not legal
practitioners. This is just commonsensical.
This is commonsensical. But sir, just as I said, some group has approached, instituted the authority. We've written to some organizations for them to look into this. Then the law court is also, this thing has been in front of the law court seeking an interpretation. And I believe it is still within the confine. We have the right as a citizen, as a constituent in FCT, to approach a law court for an interpretation. We don't understand. He don't understand. And a lot of people don't even understand. And some that understood are trying to play to the gallery. They are turning a deaf ear to it. But I can assure you, if we don't set the record straight now, it will affect something larger than this. Because if it applies to a governorship position or probably a presidential position, it will cause some sort of a bigger chaos. But let us do this, tend to it now, and save whatever futuristic palaver that will arise from similar case. So as far as we are concerned, I believe the law court will do due diligence in no time. And if this is done, we are law-abiding citizens. And surely we are not doubting the law court. They will give us the way it should go.
Okay, Mohammed, they'll give us the way it should go. Without, Robert, without heading to the courts. Because what I do not want this conversation to do is to begin to consider what is right or what is not right on a matter that is already before a court.
Yes.
But you are the AMAC APC youth leader. In other words, you are into politics.
You're right.
Has your party approached INEC to say, look, Mr. INEC, you are trying to create a challenge. Look at this law, look at the other law. If you don't resolve it by conversation, let your own legal department look at it and see whether there's a conflict. Because without intending it, or maybe you intend it, you are giving extra 1 year to those who were elected on a 3-term basis. Has your party done that? Approaching the INEC for a conversation?
Yes, power before the INEC pronouncement of last year, they had the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, had meeting with IPAC. And
please, for those who don't know what IPAC is Inter-Party Advisory Council. Yes.
Had the meeting with IPAC, and they had the press release. What amazed me is that there are silent voices that are not added to this constitutional crisis that the empire want to create in FCT. It's abnormal. It's unacceptable. I'm voicing out because I'm representing the constituency of the young urban professionals of FCT. And I'm a stakeholder in the politics of FCT. We take it to ourselves to condemn any attempts by the electoral empire to increase their tenure by a 1-year term. We condemn it. It's unconstitutional. It's unacceptable. Our voice is speaking to democracy. Our voice is speaking for democracy. And whatever crisis that INEC is causing in FCT, and we're voicing out, is we deepening the democratic process.
I agree with you, Robert.
So we will not come to a point in our democracy that will not normalize impunity from public office holders.
Let us not say it is impunity yet, because this is a conversation going forward. Because you see, the issue I raised with Robert is there are those who want to pursue it through the law courts. That's as a means of giving, getting a final pronouncement that will bind them. But also in politics, there are conversations, there are gives and takes, there are explanations to be made. And as a political interest, the first option should not be combative. Has your group, has the APC as a party, because he is a partisan, you are pushing on the platform of advancing democracy in Abuja. Have you conversed with INEC to say, Mr. INEC, you are allowing these people to enter the kingdom of God through the back door? The way you are applying this law now, you are giving them 1-year extension. They don't deserve it. The law doesn't say so. The law by which they came in does not say so. Have you held that conversation with INEC?
Well, truth be told, my group did not hold any conversation with the electoral umpire. But from the fact and the information at our disposal, there are some organizations that have met with them. They've even written using their counsel. They have been furnished with certain documents upon which they used to take the step they are onto at the moment. But if I may say, we are just like a group that we want a situation whereby democracy will be more deepened. It shouldn't be just a pronouncement. Let's see it working. Like FCT is a state, a capital territory for all Nigerians, irrespective of wherever you're coming from. And if we're not laying examples here, what do you expect if it is somewhere else? So we did not approach the umpire regarding that. But I believe, I said it earlier when I was making my comment, that the umpire should have done the needful. You are found, just as you said, between the deep blue sea and the devil. Now use your legal department. Let them approach the law court. In this situation, what do we do? Not just holding on to one. Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, I never know him to be a lawyer. Not just picking the 2022 Electoral Act as amended, and that is what you are working upon. What do you do with the same Electoral Act that you used in the conduct of the election? So had it been he has approached the necessary quota, we shouldn't be here. We give kudos to him. Quite all right. They are doing wonderful job. But let us call a spade, sir. If this is not attended to now, a constitutional crisis is looming.
Mohammed, I've been waiting for this point because you've used that analogy more than 3 times in this conversation, that this may just be a little fire, and if it's not well managed, it could consume something bigger. And each time you have done that analogy, I get it, the feeling that there is a fear that you hold. There is a process within the process. There's something that you don't want to happen. What are you afraid of?
I'm not afraid of anything that much. What I'm afraid of is a very simple thing. It's something that is in the open. I said it earlier. It is happening now in an area council at a local government level. Just imagine, Chief Wabrezi, if this is happening at a gubernatorial level or a presidential level, you can imagine the tussle that will be coming up in that regard. Area council is still being looked down upon as a mega kind of position. But I can assure you, no governorship, incumbent governor will have this opportunity and will not want to maximize it beyond imagination. But if the records are set straight now, we have avert future occurrence. At least they will know that should there be any law amended while a previous law was used in the conduct, it does not apply to you until another electoral year comes. That is when it applies. That will have saved a lot of chaos. That's the chaos. It's not the chaos of battle or something, but that's the chaos. It's just at the grassroots level now. What if it's at the state level or at the national level?
Now, Robert, anytime analysts speak about conditions for any activity, they say the conditions apply across board. In other words, nobody is disadvantaged. Let me ask you, Robert, how many councils does APC occupy in Abuja at present? How many councils?
3 councils.
Out of 6.
Out of 6, why the PDP
has 3.
Has 3.
Good.
So it's a fair.
It's a balanced
situation. Yes.
Good. You see, why I asked that question? Is there anybody who stands to profit politically more than the other if this condition applies across board?
Yes.
Please tell me.
The good people of FCT stand to benefit more. I represent the people. And the people went to that poll approaching the election with the 2010 Electoral Act.
Giving mandate for 3 years.
3 years. Section 113, subsection 1, split it clear that this election is conducted with this act. And the act splits it that is on a 3-year mandate. They took the oath of office for a 3-year mandate. The good people of FCT approached the electoral process with a 3-year mandate. So any attempt
to prolong it
is subverting the will of the people.
Look, Mohammed, I'm sure that there's something I have not put my fingers on. And that's why I asked the question. If a rule applies across board and nobody is disadvantaged, why are we raising dust? Because I asked Robert that question because he's a partisan. He belongs to APC. And maybe somebody say because PDP holds more councils, or because Labour Party holds more councils, or because NNPP holds more councils, it would use the extra 1 year to consolidate. APC holds 3, PDP holds 3. The law as it's been applied applies to all of them.
Yes.
Do you see anybody getting an advantage by the application of this law? Or are just being very nice to the nation, very nice to the process, and being sure that everything is done nicely?
Yes, he has rightly answered you earlier and said the only set of people that are at advantage in this whole agitation is
the electorate.
The electorate. And come to think of it, in my own angle now, put partisan aside, APC and PDP are not the only political party in FCT. As we speak, we have Labour Party holding the
Senate,
as well as Amaka Buhari Federal Constituency, and we have APC holding Abuja South Federal Constituency. So in a nutshell, we are not being partisan here. Due diligence is what we are yearning for. If you say it applies across board, quite all right, very fine, because they are all there at the same time, irrespective of political affiliation. But we are talking in the interest of the people and in the interest of justice. Law and order. We are not here. The people there are my people. The chairman of Abuja Municipal Area Council is my chairman. I can freely walk into his office and have conversations with him. The councillor representing my ward in City Center is my councillor. I can surely walk into that office and have some sort of reasoning with him. They are representing me, irrespective of the political party. There's a time for politicking and electioneering.
There's a
time for governance. You understand? So this electioneering period has been put aside. It is governance we are talking about, that they are there for now. But what we are talking about is due process should be observed. Due diligence should be done in accordance with the Constitution. I did not write the 2010 Electoral Act. Neither did I amended the 2022 Electoral Act as amended. I did not do that by myself. And it is binding on me, it's binding on you and every Nigerian. That document is binding on us. So why don't we work in accordance with that book? We're not asking for too much. We don't have special interest. If they are vacating that office, I won't be the caretaker because it is against the law. That is why I'm making mention that there is still room within the law, the ambit of the law, that the most senior administrative officer in that area council can still work in conjunction with the Minister of FCT.
In fact, I have been trying to get you repeat this line of thought. Will that administrative contraption access federal allocation?
Well, just as I said earlier, it was pronounced way back after the Supreme Court pronouncement that there won't be an allocation for an unelected area council that doesn't have as in elected officials.
Thank you.
Within that process, the presidency also came up with the idea when there was a lot of hula baloo and cries here and there that would have put that area council at disadvantage, the running of their day-to-day affairs. And I think they still met, applying their discretion, saying that in that case, if there's an area council without an elected official, the most senior should take charge pending the time the election will be held.
Okay. Now that is a political solution, isn't it? Not necessarily legalistic.
Yes.
Robert, he says it's a political understanding between the presidency and the governors, having looked at the implication of obeying to the letter in a situation like this. Don't you think that INEC has also looked at the circumstance and said, let us resolve this problem instead of being legalistic?
Resolving this problem, not be legalistic, is unconstitutional. And it itself is illegal.
In other words, moving from fry pan
to fire.
You said it all. As our appeal to the Honorable Minister, His Excellency Barrister Yusuf Wike, is a lawyer, he's a constitutional lawyer. He understands the constitution very well, and he played politics and democracy according to the books. No exception. I don't take that away from him. He knows what to do at the expiration of that tenure, which is 14th June 2025. I'm waiting for that day to happen.
Okay, Robert, my producer says you are running out of time. We are waiting for June 2024. I hope that date will not be Armageddon.
June 2025.
I hope that date will not be Armageddon.
Definitely.
It will be a day of understanding and doing things according to the rule. Well, in the past almost 50 minutes, really, I've been speaking with Mohammed Omorinre. I'm right now. He is the convener of Abuja Political Advancement Group, and Honorable Robert H. Ugbede. He is the AMAC APC youth leader. The two gentlemen in the studio with me, we've been looking at the FCT council elections scheduled to hold by INEC in February of 2026. Their contention is something dangerous could happen if legal lacuna is not resolved. The current occupants of those council positions were elected under the 2010 Electoral Act, and that 2010 Electoral Act provided for 3-year tenure. But in the course of their service, a new act came in that provides for 4-year tenure. Now, INEC, by its own discretion, has decided that election timetable should be released now for the elections to come on in February of 2026. But the two gentlemen are saying those occupying the positions now are gaining 1 year extra which is outside of the mandate that the people gave to them. Mohammed, I think I'm right. Yep. Robert, I think I'm right.
Right.
And he's saying, please let the law be interpreted properly. They may even approach the courts for clearer interpretation. Mohammed, thank you very much for coming to this morning.
You're welcome, sir.
And Robert, thanks a lot.
It was a pleasure, sir.
Right. And that's our show for this Monday morning. Now, tomorrow morning, all things working together, we'll be looking at two issues. The proposal in the House of Representatives for the creation of additional 31 states, and the President's increase of the 2025 budget. And the reason we are looking at them is because this last issue, the Presidency says, is because of higher earnings by the Customs and Federal Inland Revenue Service. In other words, because there was more money, we had to increase the budget. We expect to have a member of the House of Representatives here tomorrow. I hope that he honors our invitation and you'll be with us. My name is Mwabose Njok from our Abuja studio. We thank you for being with us on Signature Morning. Good morning.